Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. She is the author of the book Right Where They Belong, Sutton Series Book 1, no other than Miss Chantal DeYoe.
Thank you.
Welcome, Miss Chantal on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. Thank you for having me. It's a joy to be here. My name is Chantal DeYoe, and my husband and I live in Ohio. And I've been interested in writing forever, but it took me, several decades to finally get that first book actually written and published. My husband and I live on a homestead. We have animals and a garden and all that good stuff. And
Nice.
I'm also have a full-time bookkeeping business, so juggle that and writing books.
Awesome. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Chantal. Right Where They Belong is such an evocative title. Without spoilers, what is the central belonging that your main characters are searching for?
Right. So this is Christian fiction, and my goal is to present people living a life of Christian faith. And my female main character is trying to figure out how to do that better day by day, and the main male character is coming to that faith relationship for the very first time in his life.
Interesting, Miss Chantal. Let's meet our main characters. How would you describe them at the start of the book, and what are more wounds or desire that drive them?
Sure. So Corinne is the girl, and she's a little bit of a gypsy. She likes to travel around and just kind of have some freedom and live wherever it strikes her fancy. And so when she moves to Sutton, it's a kind of a departure from her normal way of doing things, and she finds friends and she finds family and she finds home for the first time in her life, really. And it's kind of surprising to her. Marcus, the main male character, he is searching for relationship and not having any luck at it. And he's fun and he's intense and he's never experienced anything about a life of faith before. And so when he meets Corinne, that starts to change, and he begins to experience what that might look like in his life for the very first time. And it's the story of how they each are traveling their path and how those paths intersect for the two of them.
Miss Chantal, the series is named for the town of Sutton. How is it town itself almost a character in the story, and what does it represent to the people who live there?
Right. So Sutton is a fictional small town in Ohio. I didn't want to write about any particular town, but I took, bits and pieces of the small towns that are around me and brought them to life in Sutton. And as I write more books, like for example, my second book just released on October 1st of this year, and it's also set in Sutton, but there's different main characters. So Sutton is a community of people. The series is about more than just the two people that are in the first book. And in that setting, people find friends and they find home and they find community. And they also find difficulty and trial and struggle. Living in a small town is not always easy. And so it provides a safe community, a home space, but it also provides challenges no matter which story we're in, first, second, or any of the ones that come along. And so that's going to play a role in every single book.
In a role for sure. And Miss Chantal, what was the most challenging part of writing the dynamic between your two main characters? Was it balancing their attraction with forces keeping them apart?
I would say it was for because the story is so much about living that life of faith. For Corinne, it was, she was under the impression that she was, yeah, there's my second one right there. She was under the impression that she was talking with a man who lived a life of faith, and she found out at some point that he was not. And that was a struggle for her because she had a kind of an expectation. And so she had to figure out what was more important to her. And Marcus didn't understand anything about all that. And so that left him confused a lot of the time. And his struggle was between, he was trying to build this relationship with Corinne, but God was trying to build a relationship with him. And so there was kind of that tussle for him.
Miss Chantal, tell us your new book, Not What They Expected. What is all about?
Right. So the main characters in this book we met in one brief scene in the first book, friends of the main characters, some of the main characters, and so they come back in this story to tell us about how they came to be together. And this book actually goes back in time about 8 years to pick up their story, and then we're going to be moving forward in time, building up some stories, learning more about some of the secondary characters, the friends, and working our way back up to where Marcus and Corinne are in the story in book one.
Wow, interesting. So this will be a series, a quartet, or what it will be, Miss Chantal?
I'm not sure. I've probably got a dozen different stories in my head, so we'll just see how it goes.
Good luck for that, and looking forward for those series or whatever you are doing to this books.
Thank you.
What is, or while it's romance, what is one of the most significant personal journeys character undertakes outside of the central relationship?
So Marcus has a good friend in the book. His name is Daniel. And when I was first thinking about writing this book, I thought Daniel, and I'm talking about book one right now, I thought Daniel was going to be my main character. But as I was writing, Marcus kept saying, excuse me, and he became my main character. But their relationship as friends was so much fun to write because Daniel is a Christian and he has been sharing his faith with Marcus for years, but Marcus hasn't been hearing it. It's just kind of been going over his head, And once he started paying attention when Corinne came in on the scene, then as he looked back, he realized how much his friend Daniel had been in that world and sharing it with him all along. So I love that relationship. That's a long-term relationship. As far as Corinne is concerned, she's come to town. She's made new friends, and Daniel's wife becomes a very good friend of hers. And they just resonated right from the very beginning and touched each other's lives. So a very different friendship for the women than from the men, but no less powerful.
Less powerful for sure. Is there a specific scene or moment you would pinpoint as the point of no return for your protagonist, where they realize their lives are, well, intertwined?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question, and not one I can answer to specifically without giving away too much about the book.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in book two, Not What They Expected, I think it's a little more understood that we're heading in that direction, and they come together and become a couple sooner than the couple in book one does. So it's a very different journey, very unique to those characters and what is going on in their lives.
Yes, sooner or later. And Miss Chantal, what was the initial seed of this story? Was it image of a character, a line of dialogue, or feeling of a specific place.
Yeah, I think the image of the characters, we each pick up things in our lives. We watch TV, we read stories, we read newspaper, we, look at videos and we talk to people. And all those things come together in our mind and something catches your interest and sticks with you. And so then in my brain, those things just come together and swirl around, and pretty soon characters are born. And I just love that process. So, yeah, there were seed ideas from people I had met, people I had read about, people I had watched, and then they take on this life of their own and they look nothing like those originals, but that's where they started, is from life.
Yes, that's life. Is there a specific scene or moment you would say this is the best scene of this novel?
Um, I ha- I have several scenes in this book that will still make me laugh out loud, and I just love that. I mean, obviously I wrote it and I wrote it the way I wanted to write it, but just I go back and I read them and it's so much fun. And I would have to say that my very favorite comes very close to the end, but that's really all I can say about that.
Yes. Did the title "Right Where They Belong" come to you early in the process, or did it reveal itself later as you wrote?
Later, I had a different working title at first, but I realized it wasn't representing what this book was truly about. And at some point, and I can't even remember how or where it happened, but this came to mind, and I was like, "Oh, that's it. That's the title." Very different process than the second one. I had the title for the second one before I was even done writing this one, honestly.
Miss Chantal, every book has a scene that are difficult to write, whether emotionally draining or technically complex. Which scene was the most challenging for you to get right and why?
Um, and this answer works for both book one and book two. There were some argument scenes in each book, and those were harder because um, when we have arguments, we're impassioned. We may not be logical. But there's something that matters to us, and trying to portray emotion on the page, but also sharing information so that the reader understands why this person is upset or standing so strongly on what they believe versus that other person, and just trying to get that dynamic right between those two people so that the reader is drawn into that, resonates with it, but isn't put off by that. I worked and worked and reworked argument scenes a number of times to try to get them right.
On the flip side, what was the most joyful or satisfying scene to write? One where you maybe even laughed or cried along with your characters.
I loved in book one, Right Where They Belong. I loved writing the snappy dialogue between my main characters. That was so much fun. Marcus is a quick thinker, and no matter what conversation he's in, he's going like this. He keeps people on their toes, and I had so much fun writing that, whether it was with Corinne or Daniel or whomever. And then along with that, as he was coming to know Faith, he was caught off guard so many times he would end up being speechless, which was just so out of character for him. And I had a lot of fun with that.
Yes, definitely. And how does your writing routine look like, Miss Chantal? Are you a meticulous plotter, or do you let the characters guide you as you write?
I think I'm a mixture. As I've been, when I finished up book two this summer, my brain immediately started thinking about book three. And of course, it's a learning process as you go. Authors who have written way more books probably have their methodology a little more firmly in place. But I started thinking about, and so I've been spending a lot of time thinking, brainstorming, researching, writing ideas and notes. I think I fall more closely to a planner than I do just by the seat of my pants. But I'm not afraid to let the characters guide me and take me in a direction that maybe I didn't recognize. There were a number of things that, ended up in book one that I had not planned on, but it was where the story needed to go.
Miss Chantal, as an author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
I'm sorry, ask that again.
What are your short-term and long-term goals, Miss
Short-term and
Chantal?
long-term goals, yeah. So I would love to be able to write on a consistent time frame. It gets hard with life, with a full-time job and a homestead and other
True.
things that we do, but long term, I want to keep writing as long as I am breathing. I want to write this series until I can't think of any more to write, and then I want to work on other things. And I've got other ideas too, picture books and different things that I want to do. So if I could make a living doing this, I would do it in a heartbeat, but you got to make a living and write most of the time. So I do as much as I can.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Chantal, and looking forward for more success.
Thank
And
you.
what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
So if you are interested in writing, just pick up a pencil, figuratively speaking, and do it. It doesn't matter if it ever sees the light of day. Just take joy from writing. And B, it doesn't matter if it's great writing. That was one of the best pieces of advice that I read and learned early on. It's like, if you're stuck, just write. It doesn't matter if it's garbage, because eventually you're going to break through that and find something that's really good. And I cannot tell you how many times that has happened. I will work on something and then I'm like stuck. And so I just keep putting words down and I'm like, oh, this is horrible. But I keep doing it. And all of a sudden something will like make sense. And then I can keep going, and I can go back and fix all that later, delete it or edit it or do whatever. But I just keep working on it. Just keep working on it. And if you never start, you'll never finish. So you have to start. And so I just say, don't come to it with a whole bunch of expectations. Just come to it and enjoy it.
Yes, enjoy it, people. If you have the passion to write, and stop procrastinating. Share to the world.
Yeah.
Miss Chantal, thank you for that advice. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah. So when it comes to Christian fiction, Lynn Austen is my absolute favorite. When I discovered her, I felt like I was home. She wrote characters on journeys of faith that were real and realistic and deep, and not shallow characters, and I just loved it. I resonated with that. I read every book, read every book she wrote, caught up quickly on all of her writing, and I just enjoy her a great deal.
Mm. Thank you for that recommended book, Miss Chantal. And, well, tell us, as the first book in a series, how did you approach planting seeds for future stories while ensuring that this book felt like a complete and satisfying journey on its own?
I love that question. That's a great question. So the best friends of my main characters have a story of their own that we only learned little bits about. And in the second book, even though we go back in time, those two characters are in the second book, and we learn a little bit more about them in that book. And there are other people in book one who are in book two, and will be there because they're staples in the community. And so I love the idea of those touchstones, those common characters. Even though we're getting the main character story of multiple different people, there's people who are they're like the connectors between all those different storylines that we've got going. So yeah, there were several in book one that I worked on some more in book two, and I've got even more connections for book three that I'm working on.
Well, empowering answer, Miss Chantal. Without giving too much away, can you hint at which character from right where they belong might be getting their story told next in the Sutton series?
Yes, so there was a couple of friends of friends of friends in book one. Their names are Thomas and Elizabeth, and they are the main characters in book two. And then when we come to book three, we're going to introduce some additional names that are going to be showing up throughout the following books.
Now that you completed book one, what is the most significant thing you learn about the craft of writing or yourself as a writer through this process?
Yeah, I learned so much. The first book, um, from the start time to the finish time, took me about 3.5 years to get it from where I first picked up my pen until it was available for purchase. There were some periods of time in there where I wasn't touching it at all, so it wasn't like a daily process that whole time. But I would work my way through a path, and then I'm like, no, that's not the right path for her, and I'd go back. And so I just learned so much about the process. And when I started working on book two, I was able to apply that and say, I've got an idea where I want to go. I'm going to get the whole thing down first, and then I'm going to go back and shape it. And I got book two out, published 1 year later. So I felt very good about what I'd learned there, and able to apply that. And as far as, again, just getting that it down, no matter what it's like, and then going back and shaping it, and over and over and over again, that worked. And I was very happy learning that process.
Indeed. Interesting, Miss Chantal. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast law 101 and mental health 101. Love Letters in the third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Chantal, what are you most excited about as you continue to build and explore the worlds of Sutton in the upcoming books?
I like seeing where the characters take me. I have an idea for a character, but they take on a life of their own, and I cannot wait to see how they guide me in the process. And also the things that I learn, because writing these books requires me to think deeply and to consider a lot of things about life. And I've loved what I've learned in doing it.
Indeed, Miss Chantal. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom today. So can you please invite our listeners to support your books as well as the upcoming books?
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, so where do people can buy your books, Miss Chantal?
Yes, they are available on Amazon, or you can go to bookshop.org or anywhere that sells books from Ingram Spark, like all the major bookstores online.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Chantal DeYoe, because if you support her for sure, more and more empowering series of books to come. So, Miss Chantal, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.